Hello, everybody. My name is Timothy Hartley, and I am a high school teacher in Canada. And I wanted to share with you what I believe is the strongest evidence for God, looking from a science perspective. And a lot of times people have questioned about is there a God, and have looked to science to disprove faith in God. But I want to say very strongly today that science actually does point to a creator more than anything else. So we're going to look at some things today, and hopefully it will encourage your faith. And if you are considering and questioning whether or not God exists, I hope that this will give you some answers. All right, let's get into the evidence for God. Okay, the very first part of the evidence, I believe, is the heavens. So consider the earth, the moon, and the sun. Did you know that the sun and earth are at the right distance for life to exist? So at 152 million kilometers away, the sun powers photosynthesis for life. If it was too close, we'd burn. If it was too far, we'd freeze. It's just the perfect distance for life to exist. And as well, the tilt of 23.5 degrees gives Earth its seasons. And do you know that 1 million Earths could fit inside the sun? The moon is 1/400th the size of the sun, but the sun is 400 times further, so they appear from Earth to be the same size. So that's why when you have a solar eclipse, it completely eclipses the sun, because it approximates to the same size from the perspective of Earth. Moon's gravity gives Earth the tides, which clean the ocean shores. The moon's tidal energy, if you could just harness 1% of the moon's tidal energy, you could actually supply all of the Earth's electricity needs. Amazing how the heavens declare the glory of God. As well, for thousands of years, people have used the sun, moon, and stars for navigation, and also migratory animals have used the heavens to navigate their flight and their migrations. Next, we're going to look at the earth. How does the earth point to a God, a creator? Well, did you know that the earth is protected by a magnetic field that protects us from harmful solar and cosmic radiation, which deflects away from us? Without the magnetic field, life would not be possible on Earth. As well, the Earth is blanketed with an atmosphere that is 78% stable nitrogen gas, 21% oxygen gas needed for life, and 0.9% argon vapor and other gases. The thermosphere protects us from the UV radiation and where the northern lights can be seen. The mesosphere protects us from the 40 tons of meteors which fall to Earth each day. Earth's soil supports plant and animal growth and filters water from the surface to the water table. The Earth has been made for life to exist. Now we're going to look at water. Water is an incredible molecule made up of 1 oxygen and 2 hydrogen atoms that are bonded together, and the incredible properties of water make it possible for life to exist. So water is H2O since there's 1 oxygen atom and 2 hydrogen atoms. Now ice is less dense than water and floats instead of sinks. The densest temperature of water is 4 degrees Celsius, meaning fish and other aquatic species can live on the bottom of the water even in the coldest surface air temperatures. Water also has a high specific heat capacity, so it takes a long time to heat and to cool, allowing people living along water to have milder temperature, so it has a regulating effect on the climate. The cells which make up all living things are filled with water as their medium for survival. Without water, life as we know it would not exist. Now let's look at the sea. The sea also gives us evidence for a creator. Did you know that our oceans cover more than 70% of the Earth's surface? The water cycle begins in the oceans, bringing fresh water to the land. Most life on Earth, about 94% of species, is aquatic. Over 70% of our planet's oxygen is produced by the ocean. And 3 billion people rely on fish as a main source of protein. So for so many reasons, the sea is amazing and has been given to us by God on planet Earth. The springs of water. Now, we're going to look at groundwater. Underneath the ground, the groundwater is formed when rainwater seeps. It's called infiltration into the ground and saturates the ground underneath. Of all the usable fresh water in the world, about 97% of it is groundwater. Groundwater may be near the Earth's surface or as much as 9 kilometers deep underground. The depth of the water table can vary depending on the time of year. The water table rises in late winter and early spring. In drier parts of the world where drinkable surface water is not available, people have survived for thousands of years by digging wells. Symbiotic relationships in nature also point to a creator. Did you know bees drink nectar? Plants transmit pollen to bees to fertilize. The oxpecker bird eats ticks, and the rhino gives the birds a safe ride. The pistol shrimp cleans home with Goby security. Algae gets a home on camouflage sloth. The tarantula guards the frog, which guards the tarantula's eggs. Mycorrhizae fungus gives water and nutrients to the photosynthesizing plants, which gives fungus its energy from sugars. And the sea anemone houses clownfish, which gives off a high-pitched sound that repels predators of the anemone. So all throughout creation on Earth, we see how different organisms, even from different kingdoms, work together to support each other to make life possible. So symbiosis works throughout creation to show that there is a God who has set up the different relationships among the species of organisms on Earth. Now look at, for instance, the food web. Jesus said in Luke 12:24, "Consider the ravens. They neither sow nor reap. They have neither storehouse nor barn, and yet God feeds them. Of how much more valuable are you than the birds?" So here we see God provides for ravens. And how does he provide for them? Well, through the food web, through these creatures that are eaten by ravens. And of course, the creatures that are eaten by ravens are also supplied by energy from producers and also other organisms in the food web rely on each other. This just shows that God has provided for all the creatures of the ecosystem through the food web. Now Jesus also said, "Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these." We see as well in nature, the lilies are cared for by God. And how does God care for the lilies? Well, he does it by photosynthesis, the ability of plants to take in the sun's energy and convert it to chemical energy in the form of glucose. We can see how God provides for the plants through photosynthesis and for the ravens through the food web. We see the hand of God in all this. As well, we look at the design of life. Here we have on the left-hand side, we see just a typical tree, and we can see how the design of the trunk and getting to the branches and eventually to the leaves. But you also look at an x-ray of a lung, and you can see how the trachea The alveoli are developed just branching just like a tree. So we see here the design of the designer, and you can see this in all of creation. So we breathe in what the trees breathe out, and they breathe in what we breathe out. I'm overwhelmed by God's divine design. Of course, we know that the trees give off oxygen through photosynthesis, and then the animals, and including us, we breathe in oxygen into our lungs, and you can see the design there of the carbon cycle right there, and it's amazing. Now, I'm also amazed when I look at the DNA. DNA is an incredible molecule in every cell of our bodies, but not only our bodies, but in every organism that has ever been made. Every organism has its own set of, I would call it like an encyclopedia set of all of their genetic information called a genome. And did you know that Bill Gates, in his book The Road Ahead, said DNA is like a computer program, but far, far more advanced than any software ever created. DNA is made up of 4 letters called nucleotides, and 3 of them in a row are called a codon. The codons code for amino acids and start-stop. And actually, what's interesting is 22 codes are needed. So for 20 amino acids and the start and stop code for transcription. And it just so happens that the Hebrew language also has 22 letters in it. So it's very interesting that there is a correlation. DNA is packaged into chromosomes like books. The entire genome is like a set of encyclopedias for each and every organism that has ever lived on Earth. Literally, trillions of creatures have been made with their own set of encyclopedia-like DNA called a genome. I have a model of DNA, and it's quite a large model, but if that was the size of a human genome, it would actually go around the world 1.64 times. The DNA molecule is just extremely long, and in humans, it's about 3 billion base pairs. God is the most prolific author of all time, yet random mutations selected by the environment over hundreds of millions of years on Earth are instead given the credit by many people. So instead of giving the credit to God, a lot of scientists have just said, well, it's very lucky. It's extremely lucky that all these things have happened just by chance and luck. But I would like to say that it's very unlikely that all these things could happen by chance. Now, as we close here, I want you to consider for a moment Will and Jada Smith's mansion. This is in Calabasas, California. Now, imagine for a moment that you are going to spend a whole week at Will and Jada Smith's mansion. And just imagine for a moment that they built the mansion themselves. They created the whole house themselves, and the swimming pool and the tennis courts. And imagine this, you stay at their house for a week. You eat the finest chef-prepared meals from their pantry. You swim in their huge swimming pool. You play tennis and soak in their jacuzzi. You watch a great movie in the private theater, and at the end of the day fall asleep in the guest room's large king-size bed and have a beautiful sleep. At the end of the week, while eating breakfast, you see a thank you card and are asked to write a note for Will and Jada Smith. However, you tell people that you do not believe Will and Jada Smith exist, and you refuse to sign the thank you card. What would you think of someone who refused to thank the generous offer from the movie stars? I think many of you would say, that it would be not reasonable for them not to thank Will and Jada Smith for having them stay at their mansion. And I think in the same way, when we think of all the things that God has made for life to exist on earth, I think it would be very unreasonable, instead of thanking God, to attribute everything to chance and to not say that there has been a creator that has made everything in order for life to exist. I think it's much more reasonable to believe in a creator that's made everything that we have. Thank you very much for listening to this, and I hope that you have a great day, and I hope that you do consider some of the things that have been presented here in science that do point to a creator. God bless. Have a great day.